From sneaking into nightclubs, to fighting brand new legendaries, to straight up attempted murder, Pokemon Infinite Fusion has it all. And with Silphco's new DNA splicers, it was finally time for Magikarp to rise up above its inferior genes and take its place as the god of Pokemon. This was the story of how 17-year-old Dr. Su Shi overcame this fishy challenge and beat the 6 shadowy figures who stood in his way. Really quick though guys, before we start, here are the rules to make it a bit more exciting. We can only fuse with the first Pokemon we encounter every route. No items in battle, and we've got to be at the same level as the gym leader for the most part. We're also going to fuse up a brand new Magikarp party every time we beat a gym leader. After we're initiated as an official trainer, we immediately encounter our rival. The greatest threat to fish kind has to be the sushi cook, and Sook will be a constant thorn at our side. At the lab, we get our starter, a Magikarp fusion named Magikarp, and his sprite looks awesome, but he's just as useless as the base form. We have no choice but to splash to death, and without any Pokeballs, we've got to ignore our first encounter, a level 3 subscribe button. Once we reach Viridian City, we get access to our very first DNA splicers, which can be used to either fuse or unfuse Pokemon. Our big boy breaks up into 2 smaller Magikarps, and thanks to this random stranger who gives us a Pyukumuku, we get our very first fusion, Magimuku. Our laser spitting ally doesn't know any direct attacking moves either. At least we've got Bide, which reflects double the damage done after 2 turns. Here's where we encounter our first boss, Youngster Tim. In this challenge, gym leaders and even the Elite Four aren't that big a threat. These 6 figures are the real hurdles. Even if we somehow manage to get past his Ralba, his next Pokemon just demolishes us. After half an hour of losses, we backtrack to find an optional trainer we missed. She gives us just enough EXP to level up. This is exactly how it had to go down. We had to bite, then the Ralba had to use Tackle and Confusion. Then the Sphinx Budew combo had to tackle twice into my bite. We got so close on attempt 10 when Innards out. When you fuse 2 Pokemon, you can select their nature, their moves and their ability. Fortunately, we picked Innards out, which reflects the damage of the last blow. Youngster Tim is down, and we're finally able to catch our very first Pokemon, which is a Slugma Phanpy combo. We get the awesome Fire-Water type Slugcarp and stake our entire channel on the next rival fight. If I lose the Gary fight, I delete my channel. When it mattered the most, Slugcarp let us down. He somehow managed to miss 2 Smogs. I have to do No, don't miss, bro! Magimuku ate up 2 tackles and took down Shinx, but his finisher was his Eevee, and it hit like a truck. Don't kill, I'm begging you. Please don't tackle. Yes! 2 Oran Berries saved us, and the channel hung on by a 1 HP thread. Beating him let us catch a Sentret and opened up a secret path which gave us Cleffa. And while I was exploring around, this happened. We just had to catch the miraculous shiny, guys. We couldn't use it yet, but we definitely would in the future. It was time to breeze past the forest while picking up some strange shrooms along the way. Speaking of shrooms, we accidentally knock out the next encounter, and then it's time for Brock. In modern mode, you can only use as many Pokemon as the gym leader has, and you don't know their type until you fight them. Brock's now a Steel type trainer. Slugcarp should have made short work of him. We were slowly melting the Steelix Jr. and I got cocky. I thought we'd add insult to injury and finish him off with Bide. That Steelix Mime combo shanked our Magimuku, and we just managed to clutch out the victory. It turned out that only one of the 2 Pokemon that made up Clefairy was shiny. Our 2 new fusions were decided, a shiny E-Carp and Shroomcarp. It was then time to face the next boss. This is a trend, especially in the early game. Every time we unfuse our Pokemon, they get weaker, they lose experience. They also don't have great moves early on. This was their team. E-Carp's attack was pathetic, and every one of their Pokemon was super effective against Shroomcarp. There seemed to be nothing we could do until the bag revealed what would be one of the greatest items in the game. Remember that poison mushroom we picked up way back when? It turns out that it heals your Pokemon but also poisons them in the process. Shroomcarp had Poison Heal. As long as we leech seeded the enemy, there was no way we'd die, we just recovered too much health. But Taurish couldn't be seeded, it was a grass type. Thankfully, we learned Mega Drain just in time, and after a long dance where we exchanged Mega Drains and Embers, we finally managed to defeat him. The remaining encounters on this route weren't cakewalks either, they all took about 2 or 3 attempts, but we managed to make it through. Bruised and battered, we entered the Pokemon Center to find it empty. What is the scam? Where's the nurse? Fortunately, she was right outside, and Brock revealed that Team Rocket had taken over Mount Moon. We gave the shady salesman $500, making it the only time in history this deal made sense. And one Mount Moon encounter later, we fused up a Magidude. The Team Rocket sprites in Mount Moon were some of the coolest I've ever seen. And ironically, we also managed to get the Thief TM. One Moonstone later, we were able to get our shiny Umbcarp before making it to the end of the rock tunnel and witnessing Team Rocket's strange plans. They tried to send out an unwilling nerd, but he was no match for us. Fortunately, their experiment seemed to have failed. Giovanni left, but he dropped his invisibility cloak, hinting at the crossover we never knew we wanted. There was also this little secret area right here, where Clefairies were dancing around at night. They didn't want to see our moves, but they dropped a helpful Moonstone. We also got a Dome Fossil before leaving Mount Moon. By this time I'd got pretty familiar with my team, so before Misty, I wanted to quickly finish the rival fight. We made short work of him, especially with our new overpowered Umbcarp, but this team would bring us nightmares. Our team wasn't that well equipped to fight Misty's ice types, but we won with the power of hacks. Mandris was deadly. It was a water flying type, and Wing Attack was super effective against my Shroomcarp. Fortunately, we got lucky with the first turn, and now with our Headbutt Paralyze combo, she had about a 50% chance of moving each turn. With a Leech Seed added on top of that, we were recovering half our health every turn, but Misty just had to get lucky twice. Arceus was on our side, allowing us to win the Cascade badge. The Route 104 encounter was a wild Tyrogue, which we immediately fused into our brand new Tycarp and then succumbed to the greatest of the 7 sins, pride. We were doing so well, so it was surely time to bring our starter back, no? That foolish pride gave birth to the next boss, Socialite Mathilda. Tycarp had the Guts ability, so we could again use the poison mushrooms to improve its attack power. But that was only enough to get us past her first Pokemon. A Flyan would always use Thunder Punch and would kill us 10 times out of 10. We couldn't get past the first Nugget Bridge encounter either. All we could do was fight Socialite Mathilda, take down her Phoebe, and lose to a Flyan again and again and again. She'd stolen all our gold from us. Not only were we paupers, we were losing to Pokemon half our level. The only thing Tycarp could do was tackle, which was honestly not that great. And that's when it struck. The TM we picked up way back in Mount Moon, it had a base power of 60 and it was a dark type move. With the Guts boosted Thief, we were able to one-shot most of the Pokemon on Nugget Bridge. The only one that really gave us a problem was this trainer right here. And her Pukoopy summarizes the sentiment. But after a couple of attempts, we beat Lass Rally and got to the end of the Nugget Bridge. We were still too weak to beat the boss, so we ended up unfusing Tycarp and evolving Tyrogue with a rare candy. He was able to one-shot literally everything we came across, and he beat Socialite Mathilda so fast, I didn't even have time to hit the record button. In Vermilion City, we saw this really cool feature. The game is filled with a lot of little side quests. And some of the side quests give you items that replace HMs. You don't have to teach Strength or Rock Smash to any Pokemon anymore. So I think it's one of the many things that makes this game awesome. Hitmonchan just bullied SSN, beating old men and sailors alike. And then it was time for the next rival battle. After one-shotting his entire party, we opened up the door. Both of them were not savages. And we managed to get the cut HM. Lieutenant Surge. Or is it Lieutenant? Either way, our 10 level advantage let us make short work of him and gave us access to so much of the world. The first place we were going to though was the daycare. We got 3 Magikarp eggs and a Togepi. With the cut HM, the world had opened up a bunch, and these were all the Pokemon we caught. We also got 2 brand new fossil Pokemon, and this was the team we decided to go with. We evolved our Shinx to get a brand new Lucarp. Pineco and Magikarp made Pinecarp, 1 Sandcarp, a Magilite, Boocarp, Magirith, and of course Togecarp, which would evolve into Togecarp. While we were running through Rock Tunnel, we came across this old man who just threw a Honedge our way, and then it was time for the Pokemon Tower. In the Ghost Tower, our rival kindly informed us that our Pokemon didn't look dead before trying to kill them. Grass and electric types would be the bane of our existence. This Whimsiccio, it could one-shot our entire team with Mega Drain. Fortunately, with Swagger Tactics and a Togecarp with Yawn, we were able to beat it, but he still had 5 more Pokemon to deal with. Axegon wasn't that big a threat. Duovi fell before the might of our crunch and gave us a really helpful Moxie boost, which allowed us to one-shot the next Pokemon. We didn't have much HP left, but Togecarp, with Togekiss's monstrous special attack, managed to make short work of both the Slugboss and the Ninyard, winning us the next rival fight. No matter what we did, ghosts always pushed us out of the tower. The fright mixed with the frustration led us down the path of degeneracy, and we started to gamble our life away. This wasn't really traditional blackjack though. It seems like the best way to win this is to stand as long as he's lower than you. After beating all the gamblers, we made our way to Celadon City. We peeled back the poster in the game corner to reveal just a poster. This time, Team Rocket had invaded the Celadon sewers. Fortunately, with Erika by our side, we were able to farm these puny Team Rocket grunts and catch a B-barrel along the way. We also flooded the sewers without bothering about the cost to human life, and Erika, who reached the end before us, was absolutely demolished by Giovanni. We opted to fight him, and that's when he revealed Honchzing, the next boss of the run. Honchzing's dark and poison type made him tank every attack that wasn't a ground type, and he had the ability Levitate. With his tankiness, his constant recovery, and his scary gunk shots, he was able to demolish our entire team. After running around and trying to grasp every straw we might have missed, the move reminder showed us something. This move right here, Smackdown, said that a flying Pokemon would fall to the ground when hit. Could this be the answer to our problems? Would this even work on Levitate? The little bug stood up against the big bad gangster and it fell straight down. He performed his role admirably and Magitrio was able to take him down with 2 earth powers. It was far from over, but we had the overpowered fairy type Togecarp with us. Draining Kiss demolished most of his team and Giovanni decided to flee the scene, marking another boss down and giving us the Sylph Scope. He also left a few notes about triple fusions, but Dr. Sushi was a hot-blooded 17-year-old. He had no time to read all this. The next gym badge awaited. Erika's bug types were all weak to rock. Unfortunately, Brock had given us a helpful little TM. TMs don't run out in this game and have infinite uses. Togecarp did her job in sleeping Galvan Khan, and with a bunch of rock tombs and a couple of priority sucker punches, Magitrio took care of the rest of her party. It was time to fuse up a brand new party, and this was how we looked. Dr. Sushi wasn't like all those other privileged teenagers. He didn't use no vouchers. He bought a bike with his own money and then headed on back to Lavender Town. There was just a bell sitting here, and no matter what I did, I couldn't get past it. Finally, at 3:15 exactly, we managed to enter the cave and get a Duskull encounter along with the Reaper's Cloth. The Sylph Scope let us get past those pesky ghosts, revealing 4 entire floors of possessed grandmas. We saw some of the coolest sprites in the game, learnt of the existence of magic in Pokemon, before getting a Poke Flute from Mr. Fuji, who was apparently also an expert at making Master Balls. One sick riff later, Snorlax got added to our party along with his leftovers. While we were running around, we caught a Curlia, which would eventually evolve into everybody's favorite Pokemon. In the Safari Zone, we came across this super cool secret area, which had a Volcarona. I intentionally let it get away and instead settled for the HM Surf. There wasn't much more going on story-wise, So we faced the dark type Koga. I had huge hopes for Magibarrel this fight. He just learned Surge Dance, and with his simple ability, he tripled his attack instead of merely doubling it. The fake Umptera proved too tanky though, and Hyperfang couldn't finish it off. Gyarakarp had to finish it off before dying to V-Fame, but the reason Koga wasn't so scary was cause we had the fairy type Clefcarp. With her ultra effective draining kisses, which healed on one hand and destroyed on the other, we were able to make short work of the rest of his party members, and got both the Soul Badge and Toxic. Out of all the Pokemon we'd caught so far, these were our chosen fusions. And guys, just take a look at Magikarp. This traitor fished up his own kind, but looked snazzy while doing so. Way back in the early game, this guy was willing to take a bribe to let us through. He is sick of our crap though and decides to fight us. So we rough him up a bit to get access to Saffron City. There was the limited edition Rocket Ball, but what caught my eye was the Mankey Paw. The Honedge we picked up way back in Rock Tunnel would get the No Guard ability, which didn't allow it to miss any moves. In the future, Mankey Paw would potentially be one of the best items in the game. They also sold Rage Candy Bars, which reduced our level by 1. I bought 100 of these thinking the game was too easy. Thank God I didn't use it instantly. Most of Silphco was a joke, with us easily being able to free all the captives, and gaining a free Lapras in the process. Team Rocket wanted to get a bunch of Master Balls, but the employees were fortunately not being very cooperative. But our rival Sook was going from being a thorn in our side to a full-on dagger in the spine. Every time we fought him, we had to use new tactics, and this time it was the gem. When you give a Pokemon a gem, say a normal gem, the next normal type move it uses will have its power boosted by 50%, and then the gem breaks. The Dark Gem boosted Payback was able to do just enough to beat his Rupion, and our Ground Gem boosted Earthquake was the only reason we were able to get past the Wims array. Fragon couldn't do much before Magifan's unstoppable play rough. Lampcell fell to our Alakazam. Arceus probably winked at us again because we were able to land a few Zap Cannons and cinch the win. After this stressful battle, I was really dreading another super hard Giovanni fight, but thankfully, Sook opted to fight by our side. He ate up all the hits that mattered, and we made short work of the TR boss. The president offered us anything, but evidently couldn't give us the league championship, so we settled for a Chikorita and a Master Ball. For Magichan's sake, we beat up the fighting dojo and stole ourselves a Hitmonlee. It turns out that Saffron City might have been better off under Team Rocket's control. By hiding in the toilets, we're easily able to sneak into a bar, buy some underage liquor and some energy powder before engaging in a drunken dance-off with the Mimic Girl. It was then time to hit the superior gym leader, Sabrina. Directional disabilities aside, Sabrina used the strongest type in the game, the Fairy type. And here's where we really start to see the stat difference. These are Magikarp stats. Shedinja, which has literally 1 HP, is still stronger than a Magikarp. When you fuse two Pokemon, the head contributes towards the special side and the body towards the physical. But for the most part, the stats are averaged out. Almost every Pokemon that fuses with Magikarp becomes weaker. Magitriss might have fallen, but Magifan was fast and he hit like a truck. The only really scary Pokemon she had was Marowak with its bone meringues. But once we managed to get past it, the rest of our team, including a Drifrill without Levitate and a Steelix, had to succumb to our Earthquakes. We were rewarded with a Marsh Badge, a Psychic TM, and a brand new team. It's then time to foil Team Rocket's plans for the last time by heading off the coast of Cinnabar into the Ember Caves. It turns out Team Rocket's grand plan is to triple fuse the Kanto birds to get a legendary that could rule them all. They give it one of the saddest names I've ever heard, Zap Molkuno, but that's the only thing sad about it. We've got to knock out each of the 3 sections, but every time it attacks, it gets to use 3 moves. With our water type, we can deal with Articuno and Moltres, but electricity is a threat to our team. Zapdos' Thunderbolt can one-shot our entire party. Normally, rock moves are ultra effective against these birds, but they've all got these berries that help them resist them. As long as Zapdos is alive, there's no chance we beat them. Here's where we see our old friend Swagger come in clutch once again. We're able to get Zapdos to hurt itself once before finishing it off with an overpowered gunk shot. The other two really aren't a threat. Lapras can pretty much solo them and magically finishes off what little HP Articuno has left. The three birds managed to split apart. I can't imagine how excruciating that must be. And after being thwarted for the last time, Giovanni decides to shut Team Rocket down. You'd think we'd done enough for one day. But no, it's now time to find Blaine, who just absconded from his duties as a gym leader. It would have been pretty helpful to have him around. After coming across this really cool shoegrass, we find the chamber in which something was made. And then we force Blaine to go back to his gym. Now this guy is very strange. He controls psychic type Pokemon. Bulldoze is really helpful in lowering the enemy's speed. And it helps us get a bunch of shift gears off. With his monstrous attack and even more monstrous speed, he's able to demolish Blaine's entire party. Now these are all the Pokemon we've got in our party. We also got a stray Squirtle. And this is what we choose to enter the Giovanni fight with. This Arcanine Magikarp fusion is one of the best in the game. But it's also the weakest of the bunch, so it's the one we won't be using. The sixth one. He's a normal type trainer. And his opener isn't really that hard. Kekgon, it's a fake Kekgon. It's actually a Zoroark Persian fusion. We can get by it pretty simply. The main threat, right, is his Polylurk. If it chooses to use Discharge, gone. The whole team's one-shotted. There's absolutely nothing we can do. He's got some monstrous stats and it's very random. So sometimes he ends up being faster than my Magimine and sometimes it's the other way around. So you can't even really pre-plan for the fight. Even if you manage to somehow take it out, he has a Kakan with Earthquake, a Smeargle Gengar which is not that big a threat, but his Kekgon, right, his Flygon, it's ultra fast and it hits ultra hard. We pulled out a lot of tricks from the bag, from swagger tactics to sapping health. Now it was time to be a bit toxic. Mime just died instantly. I had a lot of hopes for it, but that wasn't much of a problem because Magitops somehow outsped the Persian and managed to defeat it. The only super effective move against this Polylurk, against this normal ghost type, is a dark type move. So we taught our Magitops Night Slash just to do as much as we could, and we started baiting out the full restores. This is a tactic you'll see really often as we go into the Elite Four, which they just love to spam as long as there's any damage or status move on the Pokemon. Here Magitops dies and this time he moved slower than the Polylurk. But that's alright because some learning took place, guys. Polylurk uses a super effective ghost type move, but just like the Zap Mole Kuno, we pull out a berry that weakens ghost type moves. Noah is able to hang on for just long enough to deal a critical blow. Our super fast Magidactyl finishes it off with Crunch. Now Magidactyl has a bunch of really useful moves. The most important move it has is this right here, Skydrop. It just loves to outrage and Skydrop delays it by a turn. Its second turn of outrage gets wasted and it just falls into a confusion. I also get double the recovery from my leftovers and I get a free turn of Toxic when I use it. Thanks to that, we're able to get past not just the Kakan, but the Smeargle as well. We're able to get Toxic off. And now guys, it's a 1v1 fight. And by this point, I'd spent about 2 days trying to beat Giovanni. It all hung on the balance, it all depended on Magirock surviving the Earthquake. And guys, he clutches it with 10. And he sends out a Dark Gem boosted foul play, which only seals the deal thanks to the Toxic. After having some intense fights against him, we finally beat Giovanni for the last time and earn the Earth badge. He gives us the Earthquake TM and it's now time to move on to the Pokemon League. Now even more important than having a strong team is having one that looks really cool for the end screenshot, for the thumbnail. So Gardevoir, everyone's favorite Pokemon, makes a really pretty looking Jawa. The Honedge we got way back in Rock Tunnel has now evolved into an Aegislash and transforms into one of the scariest sprites for a Magikarp. How do you unfuse from this, man? How does that go back to being a live Magikarp? Magikarp and Machamp fused into a really cool Magikarp with the No Guard ability. But when I tried to give it the Mankey's Paw, which we bought back in Saffron City, it turns out that the accuracy is still halved. It didn't quite work out as planned. We end up going to sleep in a hotel and waking up in this strange dreamy pallet town. The only place we can really go is Oak's lab, and there we just find a Jirachi waiting for us. We couldn't take any of the Pokeballs, so we just ended up defeating the Jirachi, after which it came into our party and fused itself into our Lord and Savior, Jiracarp. Now there was an entrance to another secret forest. After running through the forest, we ended up in Viridian River. And it has a chance to spawn a bunch of Pokemon depending on your karma. So if you do side quests and stuff, you end up building a positive karma. But if you end up breaking sandcastles, right, for some reason that's the greatest crime humanity has ever known, that builds up negative karma. It turns out that our karma was good enough for us to spawn a Mew. We ended up catching it with our very first quick ball and fusing it into our very own Magimew. And the last member of our party had to be the one we started it all with. It had to be our partner in crime, Magikarp, the fused variety. Our first challenge was the water type trainer law. Our Magislash is able to make quick work of this Polyleon. We use Magikarp as switching and fodder to switch in our next Pokemon freely. Now the enemy ground water type is times 4 weak to grass, so one energy ball does the trick. And whenever there's a weather condition in the Elite Four battles, it's permanent. This meant that thunder never missed and our Magikarp was able to wreak havoc. Magikarp faints and Magislash is able to finish it off, and that's when the Milotic Giratina combo comes in. Each of the Elite Four members have at least one legendary on their team. Magislash didn't have nearly enough HP to beat it, and even Magichamp is just able to barely knock off the leftovers. But guys, that's when Magimew comes in. It reveals a harsh truth. The only good Magikarp is not a Magikarp at all. Mew new transform. And after a long drawn out fight trading aura spheres left and right, we were finally able to beat Lorelei with our last Pokemon. It was then time for the rock type Bruno. You might be thinking that strong water types like Magimew or maybe fighting types like Magichamp were the stars, but it was actually Magikarp. This Jirachi knows the ability Serene Grace. That doubles the chance of Ironhead to flinch from 30% to 60%. Adding a Thunder Wave on top of that meant that it was extremely unlikely for any of their Pokemon to get a turn. Magikarp becomes our switch and fodder again for Gardevoir, and Magimew finishes it off with Surf. One transform later, we're in another prolonged fight with the Crare, which we end up losing unfortunately, but Magikarp gets a bunch of lucky flinches off and we finish the Cradily. A couple of flinches later, the Groudon Probopass combo falls to the might of Jirachi, and then it's time for our fighting type Machamp to clean up with his unmissable cross chops. Next, it's time for Agatha, the poison type trainer, and with Jirachi's psychics by our side, we're able to take down 3.5 of our Pokemon, with Gardevoir finishing off the Chandelbok, Machamp and Mew working together to take down the Weezing, and the powerful Mach-Ho combo going down to a combination of our powerful Stab Psychic and to its own burn, which gets reflected. It's always really helpful to have a priority move, and Magislash's Shadow Sneak does the trick perfectly. Finally, Lance, who got a severe downgrade from those cool dragon types all the way down to normal flying type Pokemon. But make no mistake, he is definitely the hardest of the Elite Four. Magikarp carried us like she did throughout the last 4 fights and baited out all the potions. The second Pokemon is actually the scariest. Sepdactyl is fast and strong. With the Thunder Wave flinch combo, Magikarp was the only one who could stand up to it and the only one who could survive a Leaf Blade, but we managed to get by it. We get a free switch into Magikarp, who makes really short work of this Dark Knight, before falling to Chanmeri, but that wasn't too big a deal because Magislash's priority was super effective against it. Magikarp's Thunder landed, and it was able to beat both the Dewbat and the Aegimans. And guys, it was now time for the final boss, who, sort of unsurprisingly, was Sook. This was what his team looked like. A Ninsharp that would set up with Swords Dance and Speed Boost, and then pass those stat changes on with Baton Pass. A triple fuse Torterneon, who had little to no weaknesses. Furion, the bulkiest Pokemon in his team. Chandwil, which was the fastest and would make sure to clean up if we ever got that far. Haxmans, strong and powerful. One earthquake from it would destroy any party member I had. And finally, the literal god of Pokemon. This threat would come out early, and if it decided to Thunderbolt, I was dead. Even if the Quick Claw I gave to Machamp procced, it could use extreme speed and destroy my team. After trying to beat him for about 5 hours and failing, I realized that I just couldn't. My Pokemon were under-leveled. So I took the loss, ran through the Elite Four a second time, and spent all my resources, my rare candies, my zincs, and my proteins, on Magikarp. The final tactic, which would be the only way I could win, was swagger. I'd have to leave it in the hands of the gods, even if the gods were on their side. Here's how the battle went. Magikarp was able to kill the Ninsharp with a single fire blast. Magikarp gave me a free switch in to Magi-U. Swagger increased the array's stats while confusing it. And now if I transformed into it, I'd get the positive stat changes, but not the confusion. This would only work if it hurt itself in confusion. And it did. But we weren't out of the woods yet. Whenever Mew transforms into another Pokemon, you copy all its stats except its HP. So we had the same speed, and it came down to a coin flip whether I won or not. Not only did I win, but it also hurt itself in its confusion and fainted. I tried to use a super effective Stone Edge against the Torteneon, which unfortunately missed, but thanks to the dropped stats due to close combat, I was able to extreme speed it to death. Haxman's finished us off, but not before locking itself into Outrage, which Jirachi could eat up. We forced its Lumberry to proc before confusing it and paralyzing it. Now unfortunately the flinch hacks didn't work, but after all those level ups, Majova was somehow able to live a single earthquake and finish off the biggest threat on his team after Arceus. Moonblast was able to do some more good damage against the Rioreon, which died to a fighting gem boosted Sacred Sword. And finally, it was time for his last Pokemon, Chandwell. We did as much as we could before dying. It was definitely faster than us. And it was all in the hands of the four-armed king. The 10% Quick Claw chance activated, letting us knock it off, but it just survived. It tossed its Shadow Ball away, and we just lived on 30 HP. There was no chance the Quick Claw would trigger again, but thankfully its own Flame Orb killed it, helping us beat Sook for the last time and crowning us Pokemon champ. Magikarp could finally take its rightful place as king. But we've still got half the region left. The entirety of Johto awaits. And we have Magikarp's yellow cousin right here. If you guys want to see a continuation of this challenge or a brand new one, leave a comment down below.